Hi everybody, this is my channel Mimi Heba. Welcome to my channel. My name is Vicky. Thank you once again for being here. I truly appreciate your time and your energy, and I'm grateful for you joining me in this channel. In my channel, I talk about my life experiences, and I also share some insights that I've gained through those experiences. And in so doing, my hope and my intention is that there will be something that will either inspire, motivate, provoke, or educate you, especially if you're on your own transformational journeys. If that resonates with you, please feel right at home in this channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about the next emotional imprint to money that we might have, or that we might embody or exhibit in us. So just to give a little bit of a recap, if you haven't watched my previous videos, I have talked about how we can have an emotional imprint to money, and this comes from our early childhood experiences, how we perceive our financial needs to have been met by our primary caregivers, and how this creates an internal working model or an emotional imprint or an attachment style in us, or in our subconscious or within us, that then becomes the lens through which we perceive ourselves, the lens through which we see ourselves, we see others, and through which we create our worldview. And so it's so important to reflect back on our childhood experiences so that we can fix, or we can we can redirect any, or we can change a narrative that has become self-limiting for us in our adult lives. And so I've talked about a secure attachment, which is the ideal attachment we would want to have to money. And I've also mentioned the anxious attachment style, which was one of the insecure attachment styles that we can have towards money. So that's just an overview of what I've talked. But if you want more detail into that, I have talked in depth in my two previous videos to this. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about the dismissive attachment style, or the dismissive emotional imprint to money. The dismissive is also known as the avoidant attachment style. And so when one has this type of an attachment style, you have a positive self-image and a negative image of others. And it's good to have a positive self-image, but it's also important to understand the image, or the views, or the point of view, or the way we perceive others. So the way this would have come about, the way one would have developed an avoidant attachment style, or how that would have shown up in your childhood environment, would be in a situation where your financial needs were not met. And in cases where they were met, there would have been a guilt tripping to your to your financial needs being met. And so this can create the messaging that you are a burden. So I'll give an example in the situation where where your financial needs are not met. It's a situation where maybe there were dire constraints that resulted in you losing your secure base, you losing a sense of security, and this could have been, maybe the loss of one caregiver, and so there's only maybe one person who is supporting you, and they have very limited resources, and you can feel it, this is passed on to you in your childhood. And so this creates a sense of a lack of trust in another person when you're young, for them to provide that security, that financial safety, or that financial security for you. In a situation where there's guilt tripping, it could have been that maybe the caregivers were struggling to meet the financial needs, and sometimes that frustration can be passed on to you as a child, or to the young person, in the sense of, you're the cause of this strain that we're going through. It's because of you that we're not able to do this. If sometimes even in some cases it could have been, if you weren't here, this wouldn't be an issue. So you kind of feel like you are a burden. You create that messaging that you are a burden to other people, and so that can insulate you. It can create an invulnerability. It can make you invulnerable, rather. Excuse me. It can make you invulnerable to other people. You don't want to be, you don't feel that other people, or you don't trust that other people you can depend on other people, but also that you can create the idea that you are a burden to other people. So this is how it would present itself. These are the circumstances. Remember, these are not the only circumstances that would present themselves in a situation where you have an avoidant attachment style. I've just given 2 examples, but they can be varied situations, and the situations are just as diverse and varied as we are. All our circumstances growing up are completely different, and so I guess the onus is on you to go back, to do that self-reflection and really understand the circumstances in which you grew up in, and have a good understanding of how that would have impacted you, what that would have done for you. As I've mentioned before, this is not about naming and shaming. I've mentioned this again. Our caregivers provided for us, or did for us what they could with the tools that were available to them and with the awareness that they had at the time. So that's all they can do. That's the best they could do. It could have created some insecure attachment to you. It could have created an emotional imprint that caused you to be, avoidant, or to be fearful, or to be anxious, but that wasn't the intention. Probably, I can assume that would not have been the intentions of the caregivers, but nonetheless, it was created. So without shifting blame, or without pointing fingers, being able to go back to our childhood and to understand what the circumstances and what the environment was in which that we grew up in can help us really redefine, and can help us redefine and any emotional, any negative imprints, or any negative messaging that we might have a relationship we might have to money or to financial matters. So in our adulthood, I'll move on to when we are adults, how that would present itself, the characteristics of having an avoidant or a dismissive attachment style to money. I'll just go to my notes, so excuse me as I go out of focus. And so there tends, as I mentioned before, you are quite invulnerable and very independent, and that's a good thing. But as humans, we do need our social relationships, we do need our social interactions in order to move further. So beyond being so independent that we create walls that do not allow others to come in, we can limit ourselves to what is available to us, to the opportunities that are available to us through collaboration with other people. When you have an avoidant or a dismissive attachment style, that trust on others is not there, that dependency on other people is not there. And so it can limit that that opportunity that there might be for you to expand your financial understanding, your financial knowledge. We learn a lot through the relationship we have with other people. We learn a lot about ourselves. We learn a lot about the world. We learn a lot about what is out there through our interactions and through our relationships with other people. And so being open to having these relationships and these social interactions can do us a lot of good. But when you build walls and when you create those strong boundaries, it can be to your detriment, and that can limit you to what is available for you in terms of opportunities. So another way that avoidant or a dismissive attachment style can present itself in your adult life, and how it can limit you, is that there can be a tendency to avoid handling unfamiliar matters or difficult financial matters, or stepping out of your comfort zone. So because you are very much heavily reliant on comfort and what you know, you avoid new situations. And that's the thing about new situations and unfamiliar situations, is in order for us to grow, in order for us to evolve, we'll be called from time to time to step out of our comfort zone. It's so easy to stay where things are easy, where we're familiar with everything. And we see that. We see people who just want to stay in a familiar space, just never want to veer off out into the unknown. And if they're happy, that's fine, but it can be limiting in the sense of growth and evolution. And there needs to be growth and evolution in order to tap into a different realm, or a different level, right? There's going to be a call for you to step out of your comfort zone and to do something that's unfamiliar, or to learn something new. So with an avoidant, that idea of stepping out of the comfort zone is not one that's welcomed, because of just not wanting, first of all, they are not trusting outside of what they know to be comfortable, and wanting to insulate themselves, or wanting to protect themselves. So creating that wall or that boundary, and being inside that boundary where they protect themselves, or where you protect yourself. So there can also be a denial of the fact that you want to experience financial abundance, even though there's a need for that. I mean, I think we all want to experience financial abundance, but when I hear someone say, I don't care so much about money, that can be a denial in and of itself. I think it can come from a place of, if I don't care, then I won't be disappointed if it doesn't happen. And that's limiting. That's a limiting way of thinking about things, because what you're sending out to God, or to the universe, is that you don't care. So so you're not able to be bold enough to ask for what you deserve, because you don't want to be disappointed. You want to stay among, you want to protect yourself. You want to be in a space where the circumstances, how things will turn out to be. So that again can create a messaging of, that denial can make you not want to step out of your comfort zone. It can again stop those opportunities presenting themselves, that will be able to help you accelerate or move on to the next stage, and move on to the next step, and evolve and grow. And so that could be also one of the ways in which this can limit your opportunities, and this can limit the potential that you have to access your financial abundance. So also not wanting to seek support from others. Again, this creates strong boundaries. So there's a theme here. So the difference, I'm just going to mention actually, the difference between an avoidant attachment style, or an emotional imprint, and an anxious attachment style. Both are insecure attachment styles. Both have that sense of insecurity, of not being safe. But with an anxious attachment style, there's like an overdrive. There's an excessive stressing about situations, about you. There's because you're anxious, that you don't trust yourself. You keep replaying that over and over in your mind, in your head, and in your psyche. With an avoidant attachment style or emotional imprint, there's exactly the opposite. You just avoid what is not comfortable. You avoid what, it's like a denial that it's not, as long as I don't acknowledge that it's here, I don't have to face it. So there's an avoidance of that. So that's the main difference of how they would present themselves, a comparison of the anxious attachment style and the avoidant attachment style. So let me see what else I can mention. I think I've said, unfamiliar matters. Yep, so those are the main characteristics. I think it just goes on to show the themes around which an avoidant attachment style can present itself. And so, at the end of the day, what this does is it's limiting. This is all about, and everything starts from our mindset. Everything begins from within. When we are manifesting, when we are wanting to improve our financial conditions, a lot of the times we have to go to our narrative, we have to go to our belief system, we have to understand where we're coming from, how we understand. I know this hasn't been emphasized that much. I don't think, maybe now, probably in the past wasn't a big deal, but our mind plays a big part in how we create our reality. And so having this understanding of what narrative, what stories you've created through your childhood is so important to understand that, because those stories keep replaying themselves over and over again. And then what happens is you put yourself in those situations to confirm the stories that you already have. So, which brings me to how the goals of an avoidant attachment style, how we can begin to change the narrative, how we can begin to change that, any limiting beliefs, any value systems or any belief systems that are telling us that we're not good enough, or are telling us that we can't trust other people, being able to, and that's the first goal, being able to challenge that inner critique, that messaging that comes from saying that you can't trust other people are not dependable. That comes from a childhood situation. It comes from your situation. But if you look at other examples and you see where people have collaborated and that collaboration has led to great financial success, it means that it is possible to trust other people and people can come through for you. That if you do your part and someone else does their part, that there can be something that can come good out of that. That there, even though maybe there are situations, or maybe your situation was that you couldn't trust other people at a time that you needed to, that is just your past, and that you're not defined by your past, that you can rewrite your future, and you rewrite your future by course correcting now what the messaging is, now what you have believed to be your truth. You can change that. You can change that narrative. You can change that story and begin to create a new story for yourself, that that you're worthy of financial success, that you can trust other people, and the way you can do that is to catch yourself, is to be very conscious of your thought processes, to check out for triggers, because they come through when you're at a point because it's funny how the universe works. When it wants us to grow, it's going to push us into situations that will make us uncomfortable. And those are what we call our triggers, right? And so instead of running away from our triggers, what we can do, especially in an avoidant where that's the MO, that's been the MO in the past, is to run away or to avoid situations, is to sit with it. Maybe take some time, baby steps, and say, well, this makes me uncomfortable. Why does this make me uncomfortable? And that way you're bringing to light, you're bringing to consciousness these plays or these narratives or these stories that are playing in your subconscious. And once you do, you're able to see them in a different light. You're able to recreate a different reality and a different story for yourself. So challenging your inner critic is definitely one step, a big step that that you can take towards redefining your relationship to money, and being able to remove any limiting narratives or belief systems or stories that you might have told yourself, that you might have created, not necessarily told yourself, that might have been created due to what transpired in your childhood. So the second goal is, that's connected to the first one. Instead of avoiding unpleasant situations or topics, taking action and seeking help. So in a different sense, this calls for stepping out of your comfort zone, and this calls for most things. I think a lot of the times, as I've mentioned before, if we want to grow, if we want to evolve, if we want to change, we need to step out of what is familiar. We need to step out of what is our comfort zone, because that's where we find something new. That's where we discover a new part of ourselves, a new strength that we didn't have. The only way we do that is through stepping out of the comfort zone. In our comfort zone, you'll never know how strong you are. You'll never know how powerful you are. You'll never know how brilliant you are, how intelligent you are. But once you step out and it's uncomfortable, it's not going to be something that will feel good. It will feel unfamiliar, and at times you'll want to run back to what you know. But once you take those steps and you continue taking those steps of stepping out and doing something new that you would not have done, or trusting, for example, trusting someone else, or taking on something different or something unfamiliar and seeking the help of someone, you are, in a sense, you are creating a new path for yourself. You are rewriting that story. You're taking actions that will lead you towards financial success. So the third one is being open to other people's suggestions, and in that sense, you begin to realize that there are people who have your best intentions at heart. Not all people, but there are people who have your best intentions at heart. And once you get that, put that in your, register that as much as, because that builds up. It helps. It helps with that confirmation that I can actually be able to trust other people. That there are people who are dependable. That it's not that everyone is no one is not everyone will let me down when I need them. That there are people who will actually keep their word, or who will actually support me. So those were the 3 goals that I mentioned. These are just to start you off on your journey. The whole point of me doing this is to really bring to light that, our finances are very much linked to how we value ourselves. I mentioned this in the last video, and I say that, the way we attract money into our lives is very closely related to the way we value ourselves. It's a form of currency. It's the way in which we exchange, and so we give of ourselves. And when we give of ourselves, in which in different ways, we create value through what we know and through who we are. That us being compensated and us understanding what we deserve is closely related to how we feel, our sense of self-worth. And so being able to understand this, being able to understand who we are, being able to understand who others are, and how the world operates is really so important in us being able to navigate the financial world. It's not financial abundance is not limited to just a select few. We can all be able to tap into financial abundance, and we are all deserving of it. But it just depends on how much we feel we deserve it, or we think we deserve. And it's through being able to understand our self-worth, our self-value, what we bring to the table, what we bring to the world, that we can begin to ask for what is, what our self-worth is, or even others recognize the value that we bring to them and the value that we bring to the world. So as I said, this was just to begin that thinking process. It's by no means the only, this is not the end all be all. This is just the beginning. But once we begin to redefine that relationship so that we're not anxious, or we're not avoiding financial matters, we can face them head on. We can learn a lot about money. We can have that secure attachment, or that good feeling about it, and that in and of itself we begin to attract opportunities into our lives that will definitely enhance our financial positions. So I will leave this video here. I do hope that there's been something here that has, that you've learned, that has inspired you. If there is, I would definitely love to hear from you. So please definitely hit the comment section below. But other than that, I do want to wish you so much love and light. Take great care of yourself. Until next time, bye.